The whispers were true. The maps, the legends, they all led us here, to this forgotten chamber beneath the world's oldest mountains. We thought we were prepared. We thought we understood the risks, but nothing could prepare us for what we found. The air itself was heavy, thick with the dust of millennia and a strange, electric charge that made the hairs on our arms stand on end. And then we saw it. Piled high in the center of the room, glittering under the weak beams of our headlamps, was the treasure of the lost king. Gold. More gold than any of us had ever imagined. Coins the size of my fist, intricate goblets, and statues that seemed to stare back at us with hollow, golden eyes. For a moment, we were silent, just bathed in its mesmerizing glow. It was a sight of impossible beauty, a dream made real. And that was our first mistake, believing it was just a dream. We were supposed to document, to photograph, to take samples. That was the mission. But the allure, it was magnetic. A pull that went deeper than simple greed. It was a hunger for history, for touching something no one had seen in 10,000 years. Javi, our lead historian, was the first to break the silence. He reached out, his hand trembling. Not weak fear, but with an overwhelming sense of awe. His gloved fingers brushed against a single, ornate coin atop the hoard. That's when it began. It wasn't loud at first. Just a low hum that seemed to come from the very rock beneath our feet. A vibration that started in the soles of our boots and traveled up our spines, rattling our teeth. We looked at each other, our initial AO turning to confusion, then to a creeping sense of dread. The hum grew louder, resonating through the cavern, making the smaller pebbles on the floor dance. Then we saw the light, not the warm, yellow glow of the gold, but something else, something cold and alien. Thin, blue cracks of pure energy began to spiderweb across the stone floor, branching out from the base of the treasure pile. They pulsed with an eerie light, illuminating the far corners of the chamber we hadn't even seen yet. The ground started to shake violently now, no longer a gentle tremor but a full-blown quake. Stalactites, ancient and thick as tree trunks, rained down from the ceiling, crashing around us with deafening roars. We stumbled back, away from the gold, away from that terrifying blue light that was now growing brighter, more intense. Panic began to set in, a cold, sharp-edged fear that stole the air from our lungs. The mission was over. Now, it was about survival. From the deepest, darkest shadows at the far end of the chamber, something stirred. It was a presence, an ancient and malevolent consciousness that had been sleeping, waiting. 2 points of light ignited in the darkness, like twin blue stars. But these were not stars. Weary eyes filled with a cold, timeless fury. As the being emerged from the gloom, its silhouette blotted out the faint light from the cavern entrance. It was colossal, a giant figure carved from living stone and shadow. Great, curling horns swept back from its massive head, and its form was a nightmarish blend of beast and man. The blue energy from the floor seemed to flow into it, feeding it, fueling its reawakening. The guardian of the treasure, the thing the legends had warned us about. The final, fatal test for any who dared to touch the forbidden gold. We had failed. We ran. There was no discussion, no plan, just pure, instinctual flight. We turned and scrambled back the way we came, our disciplined team dissolving into a terrified mob. Torches were dropped, their flames extinguished as they hit the damp stone, plunging us into a disorienting mix of flashing blue light and suffocating darkness. I could hear the screams of my colleagues, sounds of pure terror that were swallowed by the roar of the awakening giant and the groaning of the collapsing cave. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat counting down my last seconds. As I ran, the beam of my headlamp swept across the cavern walls, and for a split second, something caught my eye. Carvings. Faded murals etched into the rock. They were crude, but their meaning was terrifyingly clear. The images flashed in my mind, a horrific storybook playing out in the chaos. One mural showed figures, much like us, with crude tools and torches, standing before the pile of gold, their arms raised in triumph. The next panel showed them touching the treasure. The one after that depicted the same blue cracks of energy, the same giant, horned figure rising from the darkness. The final mural was the most chilling. It showed the explorers, their faces twisted in agony, being consumed by fire or crushed by the Guardians' massive hands. Their souls, depicted as faint wisps of smoke, were being absorbed into the gold itself. We weren't the first. We were just the latest in a long, unbroken line of victims. Fools lured to their doom by a story of wealth. The treasure wasn't the prize. We were the sacrifice. I snapped back to the present moment, the horrifying realization fueling a new surge of adrenaline. A deafening roar, a sound of pure rage that was both physical and psychic, blasted through the cavern, throwing me off my feet. I slammed into the rock wall, the impact knocking the wind out of me. Permatalup bike, my headlamp, cutting a shaky path through the dust-filled air. The Guardian was fully awake now, standing at its full, monstrous height. It raised its enormous, clawed hands, and the gold at its feet began to glow with an intense, white-hot heat. It was melting. The priceless artifacts, the historical treasure, were liquefying into a molten river of gold that flowed towards the cracks in the floor, feeding the creature's power. It wasn't guarding the gold. The gold was its prison, or maybe its life source, and by touching it, we had just served it a fresh meal. The entire cave trembled as if in its death throes. The roar of the Guardian, the shriek of grinding rock, the hiss of melting gold, it all blended into a symphony of destruction. I saw Maya, our geologist, get cut off by a falling boulder. Her scream cut short. Habi was gone lost somewhere near the treasure pile. The blue light was blinding now, pulsing like a monstrous heartbeat. I scrambled to my feet. My only thought, to reach the tunnel we'd come through. It was a pinprick of darkness in the distance, a sliver of hope in this glowing, blue hell. The Guardian took a step, and the entire floor buckled. It wasn't just after us. It was bringing the whole mountain down on top of us, sealing the tomb once and for all, with us inside it. The legends never spoke of anyone escaping. Looking at the sheer power of this ancient horror, I was beginning to understand why. The world outside would never know what we found. They would only know that we vanished. Another team of explorers lost to the unknown. But we knew. We had touched history, and history had touched back, with claws and fury, and its touch was death. This is a story of what can happen when we delve too deep, when ambition blinds us to the warnings of the past. It's a reminder that some doors are best left unopened, and some treasures are meant to remain lost. The universe holds secrets that are far older and more powerful than our understanding. We went looking for gold, but we found a god, and it was not a merciful one. Will anyone find this recording? Will our story serve as a warning, or will it just become another myth? Another siren song luring the next generation of fools to their doom? I don't know. The tunnel is collapsing ahead. The light is fading. I can hear it coming. Thank you for listening. If you find tales of ancient mysteries and thrilling adventures captivating, be sure to subscribe and follow our channel for more expeditions into the unknown. There are more stories to tell, if any of us survive to tell them.